All right, we got a new patron over at my Patreon. His name is Ash Samuels, and he has requested House of the Devil, which, when he asked for it, I was like, I haven't done House of the fucking Devil? And then I started thinking about it, and I'm like, I don't think I've ever done a Ty West movie, which is just fucking insane. Because I love House of the Devil. I'm a big fan of The Innkeepers. I'm a big fan of Ty West in general. Like, I can't believe I've never done a Ty West film. And I cannot believe I've never done House of the Devil. That blew my mind. Like, when he said it, I'm like, why the fuck haven't I done this movie yet? I think it was like, I couldn't figure out, like, if I wanted to do it for something. I don't know what, but House of the Devil, man, here we go. Now, I know this is kind of a sleeper for some people. Like, some people just think that this, I have a few people that I know personally who just think this movie is boring as shit. Now, would those same people, because all those people are big fans of, like, 80s and 70s horror, would those people think this was boring or as boring or whatever if this was the exact same film but it was actually made in the 80s? I'm not so sure. They'll say yes, of course. Oh no, it's just because it's a boring movie. Okay, I don't believe you. Maybe some of you would feel that way. I doubt it, though. Like, I don't know. Like, this has of all the throwback movies I've seen, and I've seen a lot of them, movies that try to emulate, try to mirror, try to recreate the feeling of 80s cinema, or late 70s, early 80s. The only reason I mention the 70s is because that's kind of a little bit more when the satanic cult films were going on, but this is supposed to take place in the 80s, so we're going to say it's an early 80s throwback. This movie nails it. Like, if I didn't know Tom Noonan was, and I didn't know who Greta Gerwig and Jocelyn Donahue and A.J. Bowen, like, if I didn't know who any of these people were, and I watched this movie and you were like, oh, this was made in 1981 or something, I would buy it. I would be like, oh yeah, this feels it. Definitely feels it. I mean, I don't know what else to say on that. Like, it legitimately feels so authentic to the time period. The way it's edited, the takes, like he's just, Ty, whether you like him or not, he knows his fucking 80s cinema. He knows how to recreate it, and that's why he wrote, directed, and edited this so that it would be exactly how he wanted it. You can tell that when you watch this movie that this is the director's vision. This isn't studio interference and pressure. Like, this is an artist's film. But, I mean, there's always going to be people who dislike a movie, so I try never to focus on those people. But I do say to them, would you like this film more if it was made in the 80s? I believe you would. Maybe you'll disagree with me. But most people like this movie. Most people love this movie, I should say. I shouldn't say most. A good deal, more than 50%, for sure. I don't think this is a split film. But I also don't think it's a 90 percentile or anything. I'm going to give it a 75. Doesn't really matter what I give it. It could be fucking not even close to that. What do I know? So anyway, House of the Devil. Let's talk about it. So, can't believe I don't have a Blu-ray on this. Although the way it's shot, I think that this is going to look about as good as it's going to get anyway. So we got, did I mention Dee Wallace? I don't think I mentioned Dee Wallace either in that lineup of actors that's in this. Jocelyn Donahue's character here is She needs $300. She needs $300 to rent a place. She's got to get away. And Ty does a very good job of subtly kind of giving the audience. He doesn't force feed it. He just subtly lets the audience understand that her living situation is shit. She can't stand her roommate anymore. And the reason that she takes the job is because A, she needs the money, and B, she feels she has a guilty conscience for what her friend Megan did. She took down all the flyers, totally screwed these people out of it. So she feels like she has this obligation not only to herself because she needs this apartment, she needs to get away from her shitty roommate who's always in bed, whether she's getting fucked and not alone, or if she is alone, she's just laying there doing shit. She's a dreadful roommate. He even takes it to where like you can see one side of the little dorm room there is completely trashed, and the other side is like super prim and proper, like her side and her roommate's side. And it's like this chick has got to get out of this place. So it makes perfect sense that she only has like $85 in her account. This girl gives her this place. It's a total blessing in disguise, and she's just sitting there like, oh my God, I've got to get this. Yes, it's a big pain in my ass right now, but it's a big break for me. I've got to come up with this money. I don't want to borrow it from Megan. I want to borrow it from her dad. Like, I want to make it on my own. Here's this opportunity. Yeah, they're weird, but I need the money. I feel bad for what my friend did to them. Now, why doesn't Greta's character stay? That I don't understand. Yeah, he pulls her aside and he's like, she's like, what's up, Mr. Ullman? And he's like, oh, I don't have the money to pay for both of you. And she could have been like, oh, no, you're not paying for both of us. Now, what I think would have just been smarter writing here is he would have said something along the lines of, look, I know I don't know you, but not knowing two people, not knowing one person in my house is bad enough. Like, I need you. This is desperate times, call for desperate measures kind of thing. Like, I typically wouldn't want to just hand my mother over to a stranger. I would have liked to have vetted you earlier so that I could have get a better feel for you. This is so last minute. But look, like, I can't have your friend here too. Like, I just, I don't trust two people. I only trust you. You seem cool. Like, I'm okay with you. She's got to go. No offense to her. I'm sure she's a great girl. And she would have been like, yeah, sure, absolutely. But she's just like, no, my friend isn't going to get any money. Don't worry about it. And he's like, oh, good. And she, and the friend was like begging to stay. Let me stay. Let me stay. And she's like, no, just go. Come pick me up at, 12:30 tonight, whatever. And the friend just, leaves. And you're just like, why? I don't see the reason. And I feel like there should have been a better reason for it. It could have been an easy, like, 20-second dialogue scene that would have just nipped that in the bud for me. But it's not necessary. Does it hurt the movie? Not at all. And there's another scene coming up right after that where I also am like, logically this doesn't make any sense, and it's pure convenience. And that is when Megan, right? That's Greta Gerwig's character's name. Pulls over to it. She just so happens to pull over out of nowhere. They don't know she's going to pull over, but she just pulls over at like a cemetery to smoke a cigarette and to like, take a breather because she's like, should I leave my girlfriend there or whatever? And it just so happens to be the exact location that the son of the other two characters is. Maybe I can, okay, he has to be following her. That's the only thing that makes any sense. So I guess I can excuse it. I don't see him following her at all, though. But I guess now that I've kind of said it out loud, I guess it does make sense. He must have been following behind her in a car, something, and he pulled up, and she didn't see him pull up, and he got out of the car, he ran over there, and then he shot her. But I guess that would make sense because he's like, you're not the babysitter. How would he even know she was anything to do with it? He must have followed her. Um, so now it sounds stupid that I'm even saying that, but it always seemed like he was just there. Like he was just there and he was this homeless drifter. And it isn't until later in the movie that you even realize that this is their son, or at least you surmise that's their son because he mentions earlier that she mentions. I think she mentions they have a son. Oh no, wait, no, he does because he's like, no, we don't have a kid. Well, we do have a kid, but he's grown by now. Whatever. So yeah, this has got to clearly be their kid. So, okay, I can forgive that. It makes sense as long as he's following her, which I can't see how it would be any other way, and it makes perfect sense if he is. So, but I guess he doesn't know what's going on in the house. So she leaves, and he thinks like he's gonna talk her back into going back to the house. And when she starts yapping, he's like, "Oh wait, you're not the babysitter?" And she's like, "Oh no, it's my friend." And boom, man, that shot is so jarring because it's so unbelievably unexpected. Everything up until this point is just very straight. You know, nothing's happening. There's no real tension per se. There's still lots of atmosphere. And there's some eeriness to the conversation and the setup of like this being in this alone in this house in the middle of nowhere, not knowing these people, all this and that. Okay, there's atmosphere created by this point, but there's not a super big threat at this moment yet. And then AJ Bowen comes up to the car and boom, just blows her whole face off. Would a revolver to the face like that do that? No. It would not blow up her entire face off of her head. Doesn't matter. It's awesome. And can I even point out that Greta Gerwig, Greta fucking Gerwig, who went on to become this really well-regarded director now, who has done the Oscar-nominated freaking Lady Bird as well as Little Women adaptation recently. So, just and it's not the only thing. She's written some stuff with like Noah Baumbach. She's in the the freaking Frances Ha, which actually has one of my favorite lines. That has Adam Driver from Star Wars in it. And yeah, I really like Greta. I think she's rad, and she's one talented woman. She plays a very straight-laced character here, though. In most anything else I've ever seen her in, she's very odd. She kind of reminds me of like Aubrey Plaza, just a very eccentric, weird girl to like in her movies. I think in interviews that I've seen, she is kind of awkward, but she's nowhere near Aubrey Plaza levels of awkward. I always wonder with Aubrey Plaza, though, how real that is. Like, how much of that is a shtick and how much of that is actually her. It feels so authentic that if she's like Andy Kaufmaning us, then she's like Sacha Baron Cohen freaking levels of committed to her persona that she's created. But I think that's just her. And if so, I mean, she's so adorable. Same thing with Greta. Very beautiful woman, just, kind of eccentric. A good eccentric, though. Aubrey, I don't know. Would I be able to put up with Aubrey's personality all the time, being that passive aggressive and sarcastic and dismissive and oblivious, and there's so many words that you could use to describe her attitude. So as I said, just kind of a more light. She's like Aubrey Plaza light. Anyways, moving on. I like that there's real phone numbers used in this movie. Thank you. You know how much I love seeing that. The 555 shit is so stupid to me. She gets stood up while waiting for the guy in the beginning, and I have some sore spots in my life with that shit. I absolutely despise being stood up, especially by somebody who isn't even that apologetic later. They're like, whatever. Like, I didn't show up. Get the fuck over it or something. Like, wasting my time is the worst thing you can fucking do. One of the worst things. It's, I don't know. For me, it's so disrespectful. And I don't say that word very often towards me. I don't take much serious, but wasting my time, I take very, very seriously. And she has a Walkman in this, which I remember everybody had a Walkman. I remember the Discman came out, and the Discman was like, oh my god, we can play CDs, but that shit skipped like a motherfucker. And then it just like became this game of like getting the best anti-skip available. It was like started with like 3 seconds and then went to like 15 seconds. I never even really knew what that meant at that time. Like it like planned ahead 15 seconds so that it would like not skip, I guess. I don't know, man. But CD players in the car, if you've ever had an off-road vehicle, you know why tape cassettes work and CD players do not work. You can't be driving around. Tapes, you can do whatever the fuck you want to those things. You throw that thing off a damn bridge, and if you had the headphones still attached, when it hit the ground, it wouldn't skip a beat. That's not true. The whole thing would explode and the tape would blow up. You know what I mean. If you dropped it, it does not skip. And then she blackmails this man. I feel bad for this guy. If he was a good guy, I don't feel bad for him because of what he becomes. But he was going to pay her $50. Then he ups it to $100 because he stood her up. Then she comes over, he ups it to $200. She's still unsure. Then he ups it to $300. And then she's still going to be like walking. And then she's like, all right, $400. And he has this great moment where he's like, oh, like, you fucking bitch. You got me over a barrel here, don't you? I mean, clearly he was going to give her any money she asked. If she would have asked for a fucking $1,000, $1 million, he would have been like, all right, fair, deal. But his reaction sells it. It's not only good acting on his part as an actor like Tom Noonan, but it's also a good acting performance of the character itself, Mr. Ullman, pretending like he's being swindled or being hardballed. But realistically, he knows what's in store for this chick. He already has a family upstairs dead and flayed out. You have a little kid who's like cut open. So this movie is very slow paced and doesn't really have much, but then when it does go someplace, it really, really goes someplace. Then she dances around the house, which is adorable because Jocelyn Donahue is a beautiful, beautiful woman and a really good actress, and she's also the woman who played freaking Wendy Torrance in the Doctor Sleep Shining sequel. Did a fantastic job too, by the way. She's the other one. She's in the movie. She play Wendy? Or no, maybe that's the other chick that plays Wendy, and then she plays the mom of no. Or does she play the mom of doesn't matter. Abra. Fuck, now I'm getting them mixed up in my head because Mike Flanagan uses an actress that he uses in like everything. Was it his wife? Fuck, I don't know, man. My memory is flip. If 2:35 at night. Let's focus on House of the Devil here. But I like Jocelyn a lot. She was in this really, really shitty movie that someone tried to get me to review recently. I had already watched it and I was like, I'm not fucking watching this thing again. It's called like The Nightmare or something like that, where she has like sleep paralysis. That was for sure her. And that was fucking terrible. A terrible film. She is way, way too good. I see her pop up here and there, but she's usually got like cameos. She's a great actress. She's a beautiful girl. What the fuck, man? What gives? She's amazing. She's fantastic in this. And let me tell you something. Speaking about Jocelyn Donahue, I was going to save this for the end. But fuck it, since we're talking about her. You want to talk about a final girl that never gets credit? Oh, we always talk about the final girl from Friday the 13th franchise or final girl from freaking Your Next or something as being this badass, or the final girl from Hush, but she's the only girl, but whatever. And that's kind of the same thing here. She's like one of the only girls, but she is a fucking badass, man. Holy shit. So she gets drugged. Pizza comes. It's drugged. But she's like, ew, this is gross pizza. And then earlier in the movie, they're eating pizza, and it's gross as well. I don't know if that's supposed to, like, I don't know what the hell that connection is there. I guess he was following her around. He couldn't have at that point, so I have no idea. Oh, no, wait, he could have, I guess. Yeah, he could have been stalking her. Because she'd already made the phone call by that point, and she was waiting out front, and then she has pizza. So I guess by that point, he could have followed her around and then taken that pizza from that joint and drugged it. And that's why it tasted weird. But I would assume that the drugged pizza, the drugs, is what did it. Anyway, but yeah, I mean, she gets the newscasters too. Ooh, I wanted to mention those guys. Man, the acting in that is great. Those newscasters feel legit. The way they talk to each other, and he's like, yeah, I'm gonna get the popcorn. She's like, I like butter on mine, and they go back and forth. It kind of reminds me of the Anchorman scene when they're kind of exchanging little pleasantries there, and then it like goes to commercial, and they're like pointing at their notes. It's like during the credits, and no one can hear them, but they're saying like, they're saying like really mean shit to each other, like you're a fucking smelly pirate hooker and all that stuff. That's great stuff. But it very much felt like that. It felt legit. Like it felt like real newscasters from the 80s. So really good stuff there. Good acting for sure. And it feels real. The way it's shot and everything, it looks like footage from the 80s. And then yeah, I mean she's drugged, she's taken upstairs. This creature fucking thing, I don't know, it feels like the Antichrist already exists and he's tied this girl up. Maybe this is the first iteration and he's creating the second one. Maybe this is a ritual that already took place and I just thought of that right now. I was like, what is this thing? And then I'm like, I'll give him a background. He was the first iteration and now he's like passing it on because they need to have a new vessel. And he's gonna make it. So she breaks free. Now the bonds that she breaks free from in this is pretty stupid to me. She's able to get her wrist out, attack that thing, and then get her wrist and both of her feet out before anyone else can react. Not Tom Noonan, not AJ Bowen, not the creepy old mom. Nobody. Really? Come on, that's just stupid. Maybe they had their eyes closed and they were like focusing on the ritual. That would have been good. Had it fucking, had their eyes closed. These are simple little fixes that make that kind of stuff go, oh, that's why they didn't react so fast. They had their eyes closed. Okay, that's fine. That's not what happens. Anyways, so she gets up, grabs a knife, boom, stabs Tom Noonan, then runs out. Freaking AJ Bowen grabs a hold of her. She takes her thumb, she shoves it through his fucking eye. Then she gets a hold of him again, like he's fighting her later, and then she just slits his throat. Then the mom corners her in her room, and the mom like looks out the window for a second, turns her back on her. The girl just gets up and just knifes her right in the back. Then she goes to, out into the graveyard, and he tells her like you've got it growing inside you. There's nothing you can do. She's starting to see these demonic visions in her head. She knows something's wrong, something's up, that he's right, that this is no good. And she goes and she pulls a trigger on herself. She was totally fine like 10 minutes ago. Then she's abducted by this cult. She sees some crazy shit, and then she just murders and kills herself all in like 5 minutes. This chick is hardcore. But of course, she ends up living, she's on life support, and the baby's going to be born. She couldn't stop it. Even though she put a bullet straight through her head, she's a vessel for the Antichrist, or whatever the hell this thing is. And it's not going to let her kill herself like Final Destination. When you try to kill yourself out of order, and it won't let you like pull the trigger on the gun or anything. Kind of something like that. And it's like, nope, you got to live. So even if you blow your own head off, we're gonna keep you living. Isn't that what happens in that fucking South Park episode? Britney Spears like blows her head off, and she's just walking around with just like no head. It was so stupid. But yeah, there you go, man. So Ash Williams. No, that's not really your last name, but it would be a lot cooler if it was. I appreciate the Patreon donation. And House of the Devil. Huge, huge fan of this one. Love it. Love the style. Love the music. Love the cinematography. The long, patient takes that you never see in cinema anymore. And usually when you do, people always constantly talk about how boring it is. You know, usually like the really great art house type movies, even if they're bigger budget stuff like Blade Runner 2049 or fucking Doctor Sleep or something, directors that actually love cinema and actually try to make a cinematic experience, these longer takes or these patient audiences kind of earn what's coming. These, modern day audiences just want shit thrown at them right and left, which is fine. I mean, I like those movies too. Just this is a little bit more my style, but I like both, so I'm happy. What an incredible throwback. It really does feel like the time in which it was supposed to be made. So kudos to Ty West. I do look forward to eventually getting to Innkeepers and the what's that other fucking movie called? I know he made Cabin Fever 2, but he like wanted his name taken off of that because of studio interference and whatnot. So there you go. And then he made that Jonestown one. That for some reason the name of that's fucking escaping me right now, and it's really annoying the shit out of me that I can't come up with the name of that movie in my head. Wow, I can see The Sacrament. There we go. I could see the fucking like the poster and everything in my head, and I was like, huh. And then the VHS segment, and then he made that Western in the valley of evil or of violence, in the Valley of Violence. There you go. Isn't that like Ethan Hawke? I watched it. And Travolta in that as well or something. I remember it being pretty good. I remember liking it. And then The Roost. I own that. So I'll get to him. I'm sure I'm forgetting something. But and then the Trigger Man. I don't know if I own that. I don't even think I ever watched the whole thing. But yeah, anyways, I'll get to those eventually. I'd like to cover his career at some point. So anyways, adios. Thanks, Ash.